and run a pileup of DX at 200 Qs a minute, and now I can't get a call straight. So, yeah, I'll give you a report on the next round there. You're good and loud. I don't know if you've been around for a while, but I'm Frank, W6BBS in Coarse Gold, California. Go ahead.
Yeah, hello, Frank. On the local station, you're giving me about 5.7. Now, my noise is running between 4 and 5, but I copy you. But I'm on a remote, web SDR to help me out, on those little dips. But California was open. I was talking to a guy from Santa Barbara here earlier. He was like, what was his number? Alex, KD6BIS. And he was telling me I was going 5.9 over there. All right.
Давай найдем себе место, ведь в мире все интересно, да. Это печально и честно, и эта ночь это чисто, да. Кружит снег. Он скоро укроет всех. Даже тех, кто не верит в приметы, уничтожат его кометы. От грохота дискотек. Устал 21 век. Сегодня они бесполезны. Слышишь, где-то играет оркестр.
Let's hear it for Black Hitler, ladies and gentlemen. Black Hitler. I don't suppose you guys know the name of the film that was from. Probably not. Probably not. It's an obscure film. But let me think. Maybe I'll give you a clue. A clue. It involves a vegetable. Involves a vegetable. Anyway, while you guys think about that, I just got back from I'd say about an 8-mile ruck with the Christmas present I got myself. And the Christmas present I got myself was an ILBE bag, or ILBE rucksack. It's formerly, actually, I don't know how long the Marines actually used it, because apparently they they either stopped using it or they don't use it as much because it is awkward if you're wearing body armor. So if you've got a plate carrier, it doesn't really fit very well. But if you don't have a plate carrier, it fits and works. That was my test. So basically, for those of you who don't know, or if I can just bring up a picture of an ILBE. This ILBE pack. I'll show you what I had and what I've... This isn't what we're going to talk about tonight, but I just got back from the desert, and I'm very pleased with how this performed. All right, so let me put that there, and I'll show you what I had before. Well, I still have it, and I'll probably still use it, but it's not as comfortable at all. So I've been doing all my rucks with a MOLLE rucksack, a MOLLE II rucksack, I guess, to be precise. And the MOLLE II rucksack, I'm trying to find a good picture here on the internet, and there's, I guess this is that's not really a MOLLE. It's basically what I think the Army still issues this bag. Here it is. That's a good enough picture. That's good. This is good enough. All right. So, actually, let me use this picture too. I know a lot of you guys don't give any shits at all about this, but that's okay. So, what I've been using is this MOLLE rucksack. And it's big and it's beefy. I don't know what the actual capacity is, but I mean, in terms of weight, I think it can handle like 120 pounds. I've never put 120 pounds in it. I've put about almost 70 pounds in it. But it's hardcore, really beefy. It's got an external frame that makes it kind of uncomfortable, but it makes it very sturdy. I'll show you the external frame from... This is from the other side. But it's got PALS webbing all over the place, so you can, strap on all kinds of, like those 2 packs, the sustainment packs on the sides. And you can basically pack this full of enough stuff to where you could go out and live in the woods with you could pack everything. It's going to be heavy as hell. But, and the pack itself is pretty heavy. I don't know how much it weighs, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was like up to 10 pounds, like with the frame and everything else. So I've been rocking with that for a while. And I don't know, somewhere like around 5 miles in, I broke my clavicle many years ago delivering pizza. Long story. And when I broke my clavicle, and because I worked as a pizza delivery driver, I did not have health insurance. So they essentially handed me a sling at the hospital and said, all right, it'll heal. Good luck. Here's a bottle of Percocet. And I was like, okay. And it healed, but it didn't heal very great. And I now have a big lump of bone that comes out of that shoulder. And after about 5 miles or so, that shoulder starts to really not like it. And look, that's just going to happen no matter what. If you're rucking with 60 pounds, 5 miles in, and you got kind of a fucked up shoulder, look, it's just going to not be that great. But I thought I would at least look around. And I think I even asked on Twitter what people thought of this. And one of the people replied that the MOLLE II was like a bar stool and the ILBE pack was like a comfy chair. So that sounded good to me. The problem is, and this is actually a good indicator of it's a good way to check where America's head is at in terms of, I don't know, civil conflict, that kind of a thing, is when I first started looking, and I'll show you, let me load up a picture of the ILBE here. When I first started looking at this, I looked at a bunch of like YouTube videos and stuff like that. Oh, apparently it's much higher res. So let me shrink this fucker down. So I looked at a bunch of YouTube videos that were doing reviews of this pack. And a lot of the videos were, for whatever reason, from around 2017. Some of them were older, but like around 2017 seemed to have like a lot of... And at the end of the review, they'd say, oh yeah, you can get these on eBay for like $40. And I was like, wow, $40. Which is what I paid for my MOLLE II, but like that was unusual. I got lucky when I found some seller that was like liquidating these packs for some reason. In fact, I bought 2 of them because it was $40, and they're at least like around 120 or something now. But these fucking packs, I got all excited thinking, oh, $40. I start looking around. They're selling for like $400. Now you can get them a little bit cheaper, but they're selling at $400, you know, like in really good condition. So I was like, okay, well, you know, I'm not going to get that. I'm not going to spend. I didn't want to spend over $100, you know, for a pack like that. For any pack, really, because you know, if you're going to spend $400 or $500, there's like much nicer packs you can get new. And I'm not going to spend that kind of much. You know, I already had a MOLLE II. I was like, okay, you know, it can't be that much more comfortable, right? But it just goes to show it's not just ammo shortages, because like I've talked about before, everything that I have is Army surplus, and it is not just ammo shortages. Army surplus stuff. If you look, in fact, most places are sold out. If you try to go to like just one of these surplus stores, like their websites, and don't try to go through eBay or whatever, they have all these old prices from when they used to have stock. And the prices are similar to like these 2017 review videos, right? And, you know, like the sleep system is another good example where, you know, you'll find like this website and it's listed for, oh yeah, it's all 5 parts, you know, the big stuff sack, the small stuff sack, the cold weather bag, the regular bag, the Gore-Tex bivvy, and all together it's only $110. Yeah, well now it's like $400. And that's the true, well, and obviously they're sold out, and they're all sold out. But so the supply and demand for ammo tells you something, but the supply and demand of Army surplus is right there with it right now. It's hard to find good gear. But anyway, so I set up some alerts on eBay, hoping that someone would post one at a normal price, not knowing what had happened to the prices. And I'm assuming that's what happened. Or, well, anyway, I paid $80 for it, right? And I knew paying $80, and they were using like stock photos, like this photo I've got here. I knew that it was probably not super fancy good shape, and it showed up today, and I opened up the box, and I was like, kind of, you know, looks like it's been through war. So it was really dirty, really dirty. Smells like you know, blood, sweat, tears, and diesel fuel. And I'm gonna have to take the pressure washer to it, I think, tomorrow. But I was stoked. I loaded it up tonight. Decided to try it out, and despite the, I don't want to say defect, I mean, it's just well worn. There's a couple stitching problem areas I'm going to have to probably patch up, and there's a little hole, like not a big one, like a smaller than a dime sized hole that's not a big deal that I can patch up. But it's complete. It's got all the parts. You know, the padding on the shoulder straps is a little bit, well, more than a little bit worn. But that said, if you can get a new one of these fucking things, oh my God, so much more comfortable than the MOLLE II. So if you're not running around with a plate carrier on, and the way my philosophy is, if my whole thing is evasion, right? Like the reason why I'm using one of the reasons why I'm using military surplus is you know, the camo aspect of it, and the fact that it'll survive a war and that kind of a stuff. So like basically I want to leave the danger and be able to hide out from the danger. And if I'm in a situation in the desert where I'm getting fucking shot at, I don't think a plate carrier is going to help me out much. You know, like if I lived in an urban environment, I don't know. Maybe I'd get body armor in that situation. But where I'm at, I'm going full wilderness man. So having a plate carrier, plus they're just expensive as all. That's another thing that where the price has skyrocketed. You know, plate carriers are through the roof, especially considering what they are. It's just like a vest. It's like a vest with pockets in it. And then like the plates, another thing, it's like unbelievably expensive. Unless you get the cheap ones that aren't going to help you out. Like, you know, they might stop a slow moving bullet, you know, but like if you want the real deal bullet, you know, like the ones that are going to stop something coming from an AR or any rifle, really, you're going to be paying a pretty penny for the plates. So anyway, little, you know, little excited. Got the ILBE pack. Don't care that it's dirty. Don't care that it's worn. It is so much more comfortable than the MOLLE II. I'll probably keep the MOLLE II I've been using because it seems like the capacity is a little bit more, and especially if you have the sustainment pouches on the side. And so I might just load that up for but I'm not. I would never. You know, once I have now that I have both of them, I would never take the MOLLE II long distance if I didn't have to. You know, I would take the MOLLE II, you know, like 10 miles in. You know, if I wasn't, I would never do, like, in other words, like a through hike, 10 miles a day kind of a hike, you know, for 50 miles or 100, I'd never go long distance with one of these things. I mean, I could do it, but if you have an ILBE pack, there's like no reason to do it. So anyway, plus, like if in the desert, right now, one of the only reasons why I need a pack that big is the weather. The weather is super cold in the desert. Well, depending on where you're at, but like in the winter, it drops down. Like tonight, when I was out hiking around, like it was getting close to freezing. It'll definitely go below freezing before the temperature starts going back up. And if I was gonna camp out in that tonight, you need a 4-season tent. You need a 4-season sleep system, and just those two things add a tremendous amount of weight to your pack as compared to, I mean, it's the exact opposite. In the summer, in the desert, the temperature drops down to like, sometimes it only goes down to 95 at night. And in fact, because of that, if you're doing long distances, you're not really walking unless it's night. Because, you know, if it's 120 outside, you don't want a rucksack with even like 40 pounds in it. Why? I mean, you'd go through so much water. Just that alone is going to make it to where you're only going to be rucking at night and sleeping during the day. So in those conditions, I just need to use actually it's a product the Marines use too. It's this, I forget what they call it, but it's just a bed net system that pops up. You can get them really cheap because most people don't have a use for them. But it's just like a little mini tent that's mostly mesh that'll keep rattlesnakes and scorpions and, well, all the bugs off of you while you sleep, probably in the nude during the day under a tarp that's blocking the sun. So you have like a lot less weight you got to carry during the summer. So anyway, because it's hot as fuck. Try sleeping outdoors in 120 degrees. So anyway, here we go. Today, first of all, happy 2021, right? And T-minus, what is it, less than 48 hours before we're in the big January 6th, the big day. The big day that everyone's holding their breath, which, by the way, they're just going to cock tease us again. It's not going to get resolved on the 6th, I don't think. Maybe it will, but I think it's just going to be another cock tease, you know. Stay tuned for the exciting conclusion to the Trump administration. And part of the reason I say that is I was listening to, actually during my ruck march, I was listening to Trump's speech, or whatever you want to call it, in Georgia tonight, which, by the way, was, I mean, the fact that he's trying to get people excited about Ivanka He's trying to get people excited about fucking Ivanka. Oh my God. Anyway, so I'm listening to this. It's just, it's like with Trump rally speeches, once you've seen one, you've seen them all. In fact, that's the funny thing about the phone call. Which I also listened to, is the in case you don't know, basically, and I don't know how you wouldn't know, but at this point, but an hour-long phone call was leaked, and it was a phone call between, and I don't know what the date is. I think it was a leak that was leaked very immediately after the phone call took place. So I think the phone call happened in January. Like it happened maybe on the 2nd, I want to say. And the call was basically Trump and a couple of his lawyers talking to the Georgia Secretary of State and his lawyer. And the headlines were, "Oh, Trump is trying to steal the election. He's threatening people and blah blah." And I knew immediately that was hyperbole. I knew that no, that's not what the call is going to be. Was what I wasn't fully expecting, and was disappointed to hear, was it was the exact opposite. It was the exact opposite. It sounded like the version of Trump that what's his name, the Overstock CEO guy said that Trump was like in the meeting with him and Sidney Powell and everything, where he just looked like he was out of his depth and his lawyers were not exactly helpful. That's kind of the Trump that came across. It was the same Trump that you've heard in the rally. In fact, if you listen to the phone call and then you watch the rally, it's almost the same thing. Like it was literally, he covered the same thing. And so it was kind of like, I don't know why, well, I know why it's news is because it's a leaked phone call, so they can make that sound sexy and make it sound like, oh, look, and we can selectively edit it and make it sound like he's doing. And the imagination of both sides will go off the rails. Both sides. So while the left is saying, oh my God, he's trying to steal the election. He's threatening people, which, I mean, if you listen to it, he's not threatening anybody. He's just saying like everything that he said in his rally speech tonight, just on the phone with a couple lawyers. And and plus you can tell that the Georgia Secretary of State and his lawyers, they're not scared. They're not going to budge, which really made Trump kind of come across as anemic, just not in control of the situation, honestly. But if you're a crazy leftist that hates Trump, he sounded like he was trying to threaten them and all this crazy stuff. And if you're on the other side and you're a crazy Q person that thinks Trump was sent here by God, you heard like that Trump's given them one. And in fact, here's the funny thing. And I want to talk about this. I knew immediately how the Q people would spin it. And I tweeted out exactly how they were going to spin it before a lot of them started talking exactly, saying exactly what I said they were saying. And the reason why that was easy to do is all I had to do was listen to one Q person talk about it, because they're never different. If you ever notice that, all the Q people, and this is regardless of, like, I don't think Q didn't make any comments about the phone call, right? Yet somehow all the Q people are always exactly on the same page. Exactly the same page. Every time. No matter what happens, there's never like differing theories about what the 4D chess is. There's never, ever. All the Q people in unison will tell you the exact same 4D chess theory. With no variation. Which is amazing to me. But that's just something I've noticed. So even after I tweeted out, like, look, Q people, I think I said something along the lines of, it's fascinating having listened to the call to watch Q people now spin this as this is Trump giving the Georgia Secretary of State and his lawyers one last chance before he pulls the trigger and burns them to the ground. And which is precisely what all the Q people have been saying. And the reason I knew that is because like I heard like one or two Q people say that, and I was like, okay, well that's exactly what they're all going to say. There's literally no independent thought. I mean, let me put it this way: there's just as much independent thought on the Q crazy side as there is the leftists that similarly will parrot in unison whatever MSNBC is saying. Like, if you've ever noticed that, there's never any variation on their side either. You know, like, it's not like CNN has this theory and MSNBC has this theory and ABC has, you know, no, it's, they all have the exact same narrative. All of them. And that's what's happened to the Q people. They all have the exact same narrative. And I would love to research further and try to find, because it's got to originate somewhere, right? And like I said, it's not originating from Q because Q hasn't posted anything. So it'd be interesting to find out, like, who is, like, almost do like an org chart, you know, because there's obviously a trickling down that's happening, right? Like, someone is coming up with the 4D chess spooky whatever, right? And like, oh, this is the excuse we're going to use for this time. And that somehow is trickling down to all the Q and Q adjacent people. But there's got to be a hierarchy. There's got to be a hierarchy. On the left, I mean, there's got to be a hierarchy also, like New York Times, maybe Washington Post. I don't know who's exactly the metrodome to the song that they're all playing. But there's definitely a hierarchy on that side as well. But it's just fascinating to watch. It's fascinating to watch it happen because I listened to that call. And the takeaway, what I got from that call was, okay, this is just Trump regurgitating literally, and I know this for, like, look, the Secretary of State of Georgia and his lawyer, they've already heard all this stuff, right? Because I've sat through the hearings, some of which were very long, you know, and I know for a fact that they have been presented with all of these irregularities. And I also know that while withholding information from people who, like, valuable information that you would need to see to, I guess, have some kind of transparency, right? But rather than letting people have access to this data, not all of, and their excuse they're using is, oh, we can't let you have access to this because this was, you know, it's voter data, it's sacred. That's bullshit. All right, no one's asking to see, and I don't even know that they have the ability to see who voted for who, right? Like, that's, so it's all bullshit, and it's bullshit that they're hiding. But, like, they're not afraid. Legally speaking, I think they're in like a good spot. They don't have to worry about anything. And on that phone call, it was just a reiteration of that. It was Trump complaining about the irregularities and honestly, kind of in a boomery way, like in a way that kind of made me feel like he probably should have had someone else there, you know, to go over some of this stuff, because he was focusing on stuff that really was kind of, you know, not really powerful. And he was just getting shot down left and right, the same way the Secretary of State and his lawyers have shot down like Giuliani in the past. So it was just like watching like a condensed version of some of these hearings. There was nothing to it. And you can go on my Telegram. I've got an MP3 version of it. It's like an hour long. I'd play excerpts of it, but it's like an hour long. And you can download it and listen to it for yourself. Both sides are full of shit. There was no threats I mean, he did say that, like, oh, if you're covering this up, that might be criminal. You shouldn't want to cover this up. If, what if we find out that, and you're covering this up? Like, but it wasn't like mafia style, like the way that it was being framed. It wasn't like, it'd be a shame if we found out that you were covering, it wasn't like that at all. And conversely, it wasn't Trump saying, I've got this evidence and, this is your last chance. Because first of all, why? Why? Your last chance? He's giving them one last chance? Why? If you've got the goods, right? And they're treasonous fuckers, right? Like if that's the Q narrative, right? Like, he's got, patriots in control. We've got all the servers or whatever the fuck, right? Then why are you on the phone begging them to reevaluate Fulton County? Why? If you don't need them, why? If you've got like this golden ticket that's going to change everything on the 6th or whatever, why are you wasting an hour on the phone with these guys who are clearly not going to budge? Why? There's no reason for it. Now, the other thing is, in the rally, the reason I say it's not going to just be over on the 6th, in the rally, Trump said something, I forget the exact wording, but it was something along the lines of, in the next weeks, in the next few weeks, we're going to be revealing, and his language was so Q-tard that I know the Q people were just like, yes, yeah, he's finally going to tell us about the pedos. No, he's not. But he said in the next few weeks, people will be shocked at the evidence that's going to be revealed. And it's just like, Jesus Christ, dude. So I don't know what's going to happen on the 6th. I still think it's going to be very dangerous. I wouldn't bring your kids. And we all know how the local police are going to behave. They arrested the Proud Boys guy for, I'm sure, well, maybe he didn't, but you might have seen the last time the Proud Boys were in D.C., they burned a Black Lives Matter banner. And so they've charged him with that. They may or may not release him on bail tomorrow. But yeah, that's going to be the static you're going to be facing. The local law enforcement is, and in fact, I don't know if it's true or not. Like this guy, and that's on my Telegram also. This guy posted a video saying that busloads of he called them Antifa people. I don't know if that's true, but busloads of Antifa people were getting, the buses had police escorts essentially. And so the buses were pulling in and the cops were like, getting them through the crowds and stuff like that. So I don't know if that, he had video of buses with a police escort. I didn't see he didn't have video of the groups of Antifa people pulling off of it. So who knows, right? But I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, obviously, Antifa people and whatnot are going to get bussed in, right? So that's going to be. It's going to be entertainment. It's going to be more theater. No matter what happens, it'll be theater. In terms of the vote being certified or whatever they call that, once the Electoral College meets and makes it final, whether that'll take place or Ted Cruz now has some plan that makes them, that delays it somehow by 10 days, or I don't know. Who knows? But I can tell you one thing, it'll be a cock tease. After the 6th, there's not going to be a decisive resolution. There's just not. There's not. And even if there is, there won't be, because even if there is, the Q people will still think, "Oh no, this had to happen. This is part of the plan." So it'll keep going. It'll literally keep going until Trump is, it'll keep going after that too. Even if if Biden gets sworn in and everything, then it'll still be part of the plan. So it's going to be never ending. But it should be entertaining, I guess. The 6th should be a day of wild live streams, I would imagine. So, we'll see what happens. Anyway, what I wanted to talk about, now that we're like a half hour in, is I know around New Year's, people make New Year's resolutions. And I don't want to talk about New Year's resolutions so much as I do want to talk about what stops people from making or getting the big things done and making big decisions. And this is something I've done in my life too. And I think, in fact, I think this is a very male thing, a very male way of thinking, especially if you're the kind of person that troubleshoots, if you have like an engineer's brain. You sometimes, as much as we'd like to imagine that we're very good at multitasking, and in a way we are, usually if you're someone who's really good at troubleshooting systems and understanding systems, you also have a very linear part of your mind. Something that looks at cause and effect, cause and effect. If this happens, then this happens. And if this happens, then this happens. And then this, then, you know, even though if you look at any piece of software, any kind of complicated piece of software, there might be several things happening at once. Each one of those processes is going through a linear track. You know, it's doing if then, if then, if then, if then. Over and over and over again. It's just going through like this pipeline of different decisions. And I think a lot of people that think like this will often put off making big decisions because they know that, well, if I make this big decision, it's going to alter all these little decisions. Right? So let's say your big decision is whether or not you want to move somewhere. And so you know that, well, if I decide that I'm going to move, it's going to have this chain reaction. It's going to change like, well, I also have to figure out where I'm going to work at this new place. I got to figure out where I, shop for fucking burritos at this new place, or whatever. But it's going to have like this ripple effect, and it's going to change all these other little decisions that you're going to be able to make. And in fact, it goes the other way too, right? A lot of these little decisions that you're making might alter the outcome of this big decision. And so, what a lot of people will do is they'll put these prerequisites in front of the big decision, right? Like, well, I'll decide this big decision once I know what's happening with this little decision, because I can't make that big decision until I make this little decision. So let's just say the moving thing again, right? Like, well, I can't decide on whether or not I'm going to move to this new place until I've figured out if whether or not I'm going to sell my house or if I'm going to keep it and rent it. I have to decide that first, and then because that's going to affect how I'm going to live in the new place. And you'll come up with all these other little things, right? All these little things that, well, I have to figure this out first, and then I can address the big overarching question. But first I have to do this, and then I got to figure out this. And what happens is, because everything's so connected, because big decisions are connected in a two-way street to the little decisions, there's like an infinite amount of things that you can put in the way, an infinite amount of prerequisites that you can put in front of that big decision. So many that you never end up making the big decision. You just end up in this holding pattern. in this infinite loop. Because there'll always be smaller decisions that are easier to make, but you'll never run out of them. And if they pile up enough, you might stop making the little decisions because it'll start becoming overwhelming. All because these little ones are getting backed up by the fact that you're not making the big decision. And there's always going to be faulty reasoning for putting off the big decision. A good example of this, but let's say, okay, New Year's resolutions are a good example of this because people they'll use that as an excuse, not so much as an inspiration, but more of an excuse to procrastinate. So let's say you need to lose weight, right? And you'll say, well, I can eat an entire pizza tonight because starting the 1st, that's when my New Year's resolution is. That's when I'll start being serious about it, and I'll stop eating entire pizzas and entire cartons of ice cream or whatever, right? Starting the 1st. But until then, I'm going to live it up because starting the 1st. Just look at gym memberships, right? Same thing. Everyone's a member of a gym in January. I mean, that's when gyms are making big fucking money. January, maybe, still some in February, but little by little, that drips away. Because if you were serious about doing it in the first place, you wouldn't try to put it, make it some kind of ritualistic date. You would just fucking do it. And that's not just for New Year's, that's for anything. If you're a drug addict and you're like, okay, I'll stop doing drugs starting tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be a new day. I'm going to turn over a new leaf and it's going to be a brand new day. But because I'm starting tomorrow, I might as well get high as fuck tonight because, it's going to be the last time. It's going to be the last time. And then, of course, if you didn't have the willpower to do it then, tomorrow's doesn't make any difference. It's another day. You'll find another reason. You'll find another reason to put it off. Now maybe you wake up the next day. Well, now I have to do drugs today because I'm all fucking hungover from last night, But I swear tomorrow, I won't get as high today. And then tomorrow's what, that's the dual, I guess, problems that people have when it comes to the two main problems people have when it comes to making big decisions. But they all boil in together into one problem, is that there's always a reason not to make the big decision. Whether it's because you think you have to, fulfill all these prerequisites first. And look, there's some where you have to do that, right? Like if your big decision, well, this isn't even really a decision though. Actually, I don't think that, maybe goals. Bigger goals might have prerequisites, right? Like if your goal is to be a doctor, you kind of have to go to medical school first, right? I get that, all right? But that's not the decision. You decided already that you're going to be a doctor. And so you're going to medical school, or at least you should be, if that's what you decided. And that's the thing. If you're not able to make that decision, hey, I'm going to be a doctor, then maybe you're not going to be going to medical school because you're going to be thinking, well, if I decide I want to be a doctor, then I'll have to go to medical school, and you'll just have all these fucking reasons to not just push the fucking button. And it's not going to just be like these reasons that build up and paralyze you into inaction that is going to stop you from succeeding in that one area. That's going to affect you in every other aspect of your life. Because in every other aspect of your life, you have a finite amount of things that you can be juggling around in your brain. You have a finite amount of things, of unknowns, that you can be having, that you can have anxiety over and still function as a normal human being. Certainly, there's a limit to that if you just to be at your best, right? But even just to function, like if you, there are people, and usually if you find people that are super depressed, and maybe this has been you at some point in your life, where just getting out of bed, you're just like, this just seems like so much. It just seems like so much. Why is that? It's because there's a lot of these big decisions you're not making. And you're gumming up the system. And then you start to feel like you're not doing anything with your life because you're not, you know, and it's a vicious cycle. So I think it's helpful to know this, understand this, and just realize, look, it's so much better. The consequences of just saying, fuck it, we're doing this. And look, you might be wrong. Like the fears that you had about making a decision quickly, a big decision quickly and decisively, might come true. Like the nightmare might happen, right? But then you just make another decisive big decision and get yourself out of it. Instead of just circling around in this holding pattern, not going anywhere. Because you're afraid to just pull the trigger and find out like what's going to happen. Well, what happens if I move there and then I hate it? Okay, well then you fucking hate it. Big deal. You hate it here. That's why you're going to move. But now you're just going to hate it more and more and more. And when you could have just moved, find out you hate it there, and then pull the trigger again, go somewhere else. And look, you are going to, if you make big decisions decisively like that, you're going to fuck up sometimes. I've made some really big, drastic changes that, well, some of which worked out really well, actually, and some which did not work out so good. But overall, I've never been in a place where I thought, wow, like I have felt more miserable over the years in my lifetime. It's been a larger source of anxiety and misery to not do something than it's ever been to actually do something. I can tell you that 100%. And I've made some dumbass decisions that have fucked things up. But it's always in the short term. It's always a short-term pain. It's like you can sit there and worry about touching the rock and wondering, is it going to burn me when I touch it? It's been in the sun all day. It's 120 degrees. Look, if you just grab the fucking rock and you get burned real quick, it's over. You're not sitting there for like an hour and a half wondering, is that rock hot? Is it going to hurt my hand? No, just fucking touch the rock. Maybe it's not hot. I don't know. But you're not going to find out, and it's not going to make your life better sitting there fucking stressing out about it. Just fucking do it. That's a really stupid metaphor, but I think you get it. You just gotta, you just have to decide. And honestly, that's literally the biggest difference between leaders and followers. Leaders make decisions. Followers fear decisions, and so they attach themselves to leaders so that they'll make the decisions for them. And that's the thing is, look at Trump, right? There's a lot of people that don't want to have to think about the big stuff and don't want to have to make decisions about the big stuff. And Trump still has super loyal followers because of this. Even though he's not making the decisions they would make most of the time. Most of the time he's making like really bad decisions. But he's a leader because he's making the decisions. And the people following him, they don't want to make decisions. And that really is the different, look, when we talk about NPCs, and I know it's a tired meme, but like it's real, it's descriptive, it's never going to change. It's just the way of the world. There's always going to be that class of people who don't make their own decisions. By definition, that's what an NPC is, right? Someone's making their decisions for them and programming them with those decisions. With the answers to those decisions or whatever. They're not actually making any decisions themselves. It's all been outsourced. And so I think that this is something that everyone can apply. Look, it's something that I personally do. There are things, I find myself doing this sometimes, where there's like a big thing that if I just fucking pulled the trigger on it one way or the other, it would just be done. Maybe it'd be I'd pick the wrong thing to do, but it would just be done. But instead, what I'm doing is it's like constantly in my mind, just weighing me down constantly. I'm just wondering, like, well, what about the effect of this? Or like, and you're trying to like see the future. It's like you want like a fucking crystal ball before, like you want to know how it's going to work out before you do it. Well, no one's got a fucking crystal ball. And this isn't a video game where you can just fucking save it and then try it, and if it doesn't work, go back to your save point. No, that's not the way. That's not the way life is. Sometimes you're gonna fuck up. Okay. I think I've told this story before, but I'm gonna tell it again. I was I did stand up briefly. I was not super good at it, and I was really terrified of doing it. I thought I could be funny, but trying to be funny with your friends and being funny to a room full of strangers on a stage with a light in your fucking face, there's two totally different things. And I knew this. But I still wanted to at least try it out. I wanted to give it a shot. And at the time, I really liked Bill Burr. And this was years ago. He has since been very cucky, but he was very funny back in the day. And so I emailed him. I just said, hey, look, I want to do stand-up. I think you do good stand-up. I'm afraid if I go do it, I'm going to bomb. Like, do you have any advice? And he emailed back and said, you're going to bomb. All right, now go do it. Now that you know, like, it's over. You're not go there knowing you're going to bomb. It's fine. And if you can go there knowing that no one's going to kill their first night. You're going to go there, you're going to fuck up. And if you're still willing to go do it, you're on your way to doing it. But you're going to bomb. So mystery over. You're going to fuck up. And I thought to myself, wow, that's real. That's yeah, okay. And it oddly, it gave me a weird sense of peace. And I went, and sure enough, I bombed. And but I didn't quit. I kept going. And I kept doing it until like I felt like I accomplished what I wanted to do. Where I was actually okay. I did enough open mic type stuff with people laughing at the jokes to where I felt like, okay, this is not for me, but I'm not leaving because I suck at it. Well, I still kind of sucked at it, but I wasn't like leaving having not at least reach some level of success with it. But that first night was fucking terrifying, and I did it. I just fucking did it. And that's how most things in life are. It's like, look, yeah, you might fail. Yeah, there's probably a safer way to do it. Yeah, it'd probably be better if you do this, that, and the other first. You know, and within reason, it's good to be cautious. But eventually, you got to just fucking do it. So, anyway, I hope that's helpful to someone when it comes to their New Year's resolution. You know, if they, regardless of what it was, and not just for your New Year's resolution, just in life in general. And I think that if you're someone that if you're feeling a little depressed and you've got a lot of anxiety about something right now, I bet if you were to really think about it, to really think, like, there's probably big decisions that you are neglecting. Decisions that you should be making, but you've put them on hold because you've set up all these prerequisites. Like, well, I have to do all this first. And I bet if you really thought about it, you'd realize you really don't. Like, in a perfect world, that'd be good, right? But, yeah, like in the example of my comedy. Or attempt at comedy. In a perfect world, yeah, it'd be great if I could, like, practice in front of the mirror until I got the timing down perfect. You know, like, maybe I could record it, which I did, like, record myself in front of my computer like a million times and rewatch it. And, you know, and I could be super obsessive about it. It might take fucking years in that case. And then maybe it'd still suck. Like, after a year of doing that, because it's not the same. Like, it's not the same as when you're up on the stage doing it. So it's just something that you need to just fucking do it. You just need to fucking pull the trigger. So anyway, I'm going to take a look at chat. See what you guys are up to. I'm moving to Arizona and gonna live off the land, about to sell my shit too. Okay, well, I'll tell you what. If you got water, well, it depends on what part of Arizona you go to. Everyone thinks Arizona's just a big desert, but there's northern Arizona. It's a lot like Colorado. But even there's like some dry places. I hope your land has water, is all I'm saying. When I first lived in a desert, it was in New Mexico. And that was I had to haul water. I didn't have water. And so I had to go with this massive fucking water tank that just filled up the entire back of my truck. And I had to haul water in from town. It was just a huge pain in the ass. So if you're doing that, I hope you have water. What's your take on Lin Wood? I don't know what to make of him other than I think that he's purposely... I think he's trying to radicalize Q people, really. I mean, that's kind of... Because he's saying shit that, like, is... I don't think he really 100%... Maybe he does. Look, there's two options. Either he believes it or he doesn't, right? Well, if he believes it, he's basically a Q-tard. And in fact, he's like beyond Q-tard. Okay? Because he's like full-on Isaac Cappy, Dead Man Switch, fucking, you know, all the way down. He's at the bottom of the... If he believes what he's saying, he's at the bottom of the rabbit hole. Where I think he said that Chief Justice Roberts, like, bought his kids so that he could satanically abuse them, or, like, look. I mean, look. I don't know if that's true or not, but, like, you know what I mean? Like, he's going balls to the wall on everything, with what appears to be a real lack of discernment. And like I said, beyond the average Q person. So either A, he believes all that shit, and he's like just in crazy fucking town, which is very possible. He's rich, and a lot of these rich boomer types they're kind of nuts. You know, like the Overstock guy, right? His buddy, the billionaire ex-CEO of Overstock, he's kind of nuts. He's not as nuts as Lynn Wood, but he's kind of nuts. Doesn't mean I believe nothing that he says. I think he believes what he's saying. I get a better vibe from that guy in terms of he's at least being honest. I think he's a little nuts, but I think he's being honest. Lynn Wood is a great attorney. Well, I mean, I don't know. Maybe. Lynn Wood went off last night. I think he might be dying from COVID soon. Just got your book. God bless. Happy New Year. Thank you for the diamond. Rappo. Here they want Hispanics. Roberts is so dirty, it's true. The cognitive dissonance shouldn't prevent the truth from... Well, Roberts is probably dirty. I don't think he bought his kids to sacrifice them in a satanic ritual, though. I mean, I don't know, maybe. At this point, right, like nothing would shock me. It just seems like you don't go... Even if he knew this, you don't go out the gate with that without some kind of evidence. And that's the other thing that Lynn Wood does that like makes me feel like he's just some kind of agent of chaos. Is he'll say these things and like, well, if you've seen what I've seen, just, you know, shit or get off the pot, dude. Like if this is real, just there's no if it's like if someone gave me a video of like, I don't know, Hillary Clinton eating a baby or something, I wouldn't tease it on Twitter first. I wouldn't be like, oh my God, if you'd just seen what I saw, you'd be puking your guts out. Oh, I'm going to reveal it soon. Why? No one would do that. No one that has good motivations would do that. You would just release it. You'd be like, this is fucking crazy. Look at this. And then it would be out on the internet. And that'd be that. Why would you tease it? You tease it because, well, okay, why do you think of it this way? And think of it in terms of TV. When you're watching like the local news, I don't know if anyone really does that anymore, but if you're watching local news, they have a tease before the commercial break, right? So they'll do like a segment, and they'll be like, coming up next, we'll talk to you about Tommy the talking turtle, and the way that this roller skating squirrel is winning the hearts and minds of everyone else here in Detroit or whatever the fucking city you're in. And then like they go to commercial. The reason they do that is they want you to sit through all the fucking commercials. They want you to be like, oh, I don't want to miss the Tommy the talking turtle or the roller skating squirrel. Like I gotta watch this Downy commercial so I can see this. If I miss that, I'll be really pissed off. And so it has nothing to do with anything other than they want you to watch the commercials. Just watch the commercials. Make sure you don't want to miss it. And so when I see people like Lynn doing that kind of a thing where they're teasing stuff, or like Hannity with his remember Hannity. This is the funny. It's like they have a memory of a goldfish. Remember how many times Hannity was doing tick tock tweets like that, and then nothing would like literally nothing would happen. Nothing would happen. And he did this for fucking like a year straight. He did this for like all of 2017. And every time like the Q people are like, oh, here it comes. It's here. No, not here it comes. He just wants you to watch the commercials. That's it. He wants you to tune in next week to the exciting conclusion of the, is Billy's amnesia going to be cured? Next week, you'll find out. on days of our lives. That's all. It's just a fucking constant cock tease with no resolution. If you actually had the goods, you would just drop the goods. Which, by the way, I'm a little pissed off that as much as I like WikiLeaks, I hate having that fucking encrypted, that several gigabytes, or I forget how big it is. It's big, though. I have this huge ass fucking, what is it called? The insurance file. Give us the fucking keys. Half that shit's probably not even relevant anymore. Like that insurance file. Give us the fucking encryption key. Not much of an insurance policy if they've had Assange locked up for fucking years. Just let us see what's in there now. I mean, get a new insurance file. Like this one, I got to know what's in there now. It's such a pain in the ass. I'm so mad that I have that file. Because I feel like they're never going to release the key. And look, maybe that's the point. Maybe that was all just like a head fake, right? A way to like freak out the deep state or whoever into thinking like, oh, don't fuck with them. They got like this 200 gigabyte insurance file. We don't know what's in it. But it's big, so it's probably bad. Really drives me crazy. You must give a ninja, I don't know what that is. Oh, someone gave me a ninja guinea. I don't even know what that is. Your thought seems clear that people that see the virus as a hoax are right-leaning like us. Well, I said this on Twitter like a week ago, that people on the right are suspicious of COVID in general because they know, instinctively they know, and it's just, come on, it's just provable that the ruling class wants us dead. The ruling class wants us dead. So if the ruling class wants you dead, and then they say, stick this needle in your arm, I mean, like, who's gonna be like, oh, thanks, yeah, let's do it. Especially if stick this needle in your arm to cure this thing that no one in your life has died of, but we swear there's like people dying everywhere of it. You're like, oh, okay. The survival rate is 99.9 something %, but you have to stay in your house until you take this shot. By the way, we want you dead. I mean, that's why the right is suspicious of it. And the reason why the left isn't suspicious of it is the exact opposite reason. The left knows the ruling class wants the right dead. So if they're going to be doing anything, then it's going to be to us. I mean, they want us dead. They really want us dead. All right, I'm going to take a look here. Crazy how the truth has become politicized. Well, I mean, that's what it is. It's not even really politicized. Like, if people trusted, if you didn't think the ruling class wanted you dead, you wouldn't be, I wouldn't be as suspicious. Like, if I thought that it was, like, if my uncle, well, I guess it depends on which uncle, but if if my grandpa was the president, like, if it was, like, my family, and I knew that, oh, these people actually want me to succeed in life. They're not trying to genocide me and replace me with easier to manage, stupider people. No, these people want me to succeed, and they want me to be competitive. They want me to be successful and good and have, be part of their legacy. I would be like, okay, if I thought that they were competent, I would say, okay, I guess, give me the vaccine. If I thought they were competent enough to determine whether or not it was a good thing. But I don't think that at all. Almost nobody on the right thinks that at all. Even paradoxically, even the Q people, even when it was Trump's administration, didn't trust the government, but somehow did some mental gymnastics to where, like, that wasn't Trump's fault. In fact, even now you got Trump promoting the vaccine, you know? Like Trump's promoting the vaccine as if it's like his big, that's his legacy. Like that's his big accomplishment. and these people that love Trump have somehow managed in their head to do some kind of mind pretzel that allows them to hate the vaccine while still loving the guy who's promoting it. So, I don't know. David Knight is on top of Trump being BS. Yeah, I have never really watched a lot of his stuff. I mean, I've seen some of his stuff, and I'm kind of familiar with the drama that went down and whatever. He seems like, I don't know, he seems like he's a genuine guy. I don't know him. But, yeah, he seems like he's kind of legit. Again, that's just first impressions. If you dip a mind pretzel in fentanyl rather than mustard. Yeah, or in COVID. Oh, the Kobo thing. Okay. So check this out. In my last stream, if you remember, someone was saying, "Oh, your audiobook's available on Walmart," and I was like, "How?" You know, and so because I didn't know it was on sale at Walmart.com or wherever I guess you can get it. And so I went to the website and it said it was published by Kobo, who I'd never heard of. Turns out that is actually me. So what happened is when I got kicked off of Audible, Amazon's audiobook thing, I went to this website and they would basically spam it to everyone else. And apparently one of those was Kobo, which uses Walmart. And it's been banned. It hasn't been taken down. It has been taken down from, I believe it got taken down from iTunes. Like it lists it, but you can't get it. I think the same thing with Google, like the Google Play Store. Like it lists it, but you can't get it. I'm not positive, but last time I checked, this was the case. Audiobooks.com, they either changed the page because the link stopped working. You go there now, and it doesn't work anymore. So either they changed the page. I didn't find it on their website, though. So I think they took it down. But apparently, you can get it through Kobo. Oh, well. Through Walmart, that's getting it through Kobo, that's getting it through this other company that is, so I don't know. I don't know if that affects what commission I get or what it is, but there was like a list of like 50 different things that they spammed it out to. And I've been banned off of like 10 of them. And there's a lot of them that are just so small. I don't know. Maybe I should go through the list and research some of these companies so I can update the links on my videos. So there's one that's like not Walmart. I mean, whatever. Like I said before, if you don't want to boycott Walmart, it is what it is. I don't care. Like that, Walmart's not like a big evil company to me. And in fact, in a weird way, like they're look, I thought them flexing and doing that tweet should have pissed off any MAGA Q person for sure. And if you're a MAGA Q person still shopping there, you know. But if you're not a MAGA Q person, look, it's hard to disagree with what they said. They said that, okay, you get your 2-hour debate. And as of right now, that is what they're going to get. But anyway. But yeah, I mean, if you want to get it through Walmart, you can get it through Walmart. I'd like to find someone else, though. I'd like to find, I don't know if there is any good companies, but like I'd like to find one that's less bad that you can get it from. So maybe I'll go through, but I logged in and checked it out to see like, well, what the fuck? And that is apparently me. So, mystery solved. I thought for a moment someone had stolen it somehow, but that is actually me. All right, here we go. Are you okay if I post your Insomnia streams on YouTube? Yeah, you can do that. I don't care. I post some of them on BitChute in their entirety if I think that it's decent. Like, there's some I just don't feel like. I mean, look, I try to do a good job, but like, if it takes up a lot of my bandwidth to do that, so unless I feel like there was like a real, well, there's for two reasons I don't post them on BitChute. One is I like that this is like a broadcast, you know, like I don't want it to be like a scripted moment. I like that this is something that's happening right now. Like, one of the reasons I like radio is because it's something happening right now. You know, it's not, you're not rewinding radio. You know, there's something about broadcast that I've always liked. You know, that's why I worked in TV, because I worked in live TV when I worked in TV. Same thing. It's like, you know, there's going to be fuck ups and it's going to be, but you know, once it's out there, it's out there. It's live. It's like an experience that we're all sharing, you know, in a way. I mean, more so, I guess, now that I have chat than in live TV, but I don't know. I hope that makes sense. I feel like if there's something that should go on bit, it should be something scripted, and every once in a while though, like I feel like there was a if I feel like it's particularly strong, I'll put it on BitChute. Do you check the Rope Movie email box? No, I haven't in a while, but I will. That's something we also talked about. I kind of dropped the ball on the Rope Movie thing. So that's my bad. It's been a complicated year for me for a variety of reasons. Some of which you guys know about, some of which you don't. And it's one of the, it was one of the projects that I kind of backburnered, and that will 100% be concentrated on this year. Just because, like, it really, what I need to do for it isn't a lot. In fact, look, I'll take my own advice in terms of just pulling the trigger on it, is especially with filmmaking and stuff like that, the format that I'm going with, it doesn't really conform to a lot of, like, when you're going to make a film, there's like so much planning that has to go into it. But I kind of want to make this like a crowdsourced kind of a thing. But I also, at the same time, I don't want it to suck, right? Like, there needs to be some direction. Like, it can't just be like, everyone make a part of the movie and I'll paste it all together and it'll make sense, because it won't. And so, but that's the thing, is all it really will take is for me to sit down, rough out at least not a script, but like an outline, like a guideline. And then maybe actually a script for, because one of the things I was thinking about doing is have like a script and have real actors, or, you know, some of you guys that can act, within like, and like I said, with some wiggle room, but like have like a script that guides you through the rest of the film and connects like all the random stuff that we're probably going to get from the crowdsourced nature of the film, right? So it's just a matter of me sitting down and doing that and writing the script out and all that stuff. And I just haven't done that. But I will do that. I need motion graphics in 3D if you want some help. Yeah, there could be some stuff. I mean, that's what I used to do as well. So I was planning on doing the bulk of that. That was going to be a lot of my contribution. But I don't know. Maybe some of you are real. Maybe do some good stuff. I need to be better about delegating. I often take on more than I need to be taking on because I don't delegate. I've been telling my QAnon cousin for months Trump could have stopped the riots and lockdowns, but he thought it was a chess game. Well, I'll tell you, like, one of the things, I forget what the guy's name was, but Millennial Woes interviewed some guy that I didn't agree with 100%. Well, I mean, I hate that you have to say that, but like, he had some strong points on that topic where he said that his sense of the riots that went down over the summer was that it was almost like a stress test. It was almost like, how would Trump respond to insurrection? How would Trump respond to open revolt? And Trump responded by tweets. And once they knew that, they knew that they could steal the election and nothing would happen, you know? And that might be the case. I don't know. I thought it was an interesting way of looking at it. I am a trained thespian and have experience in film production as a script supervisor. Cool. I'll do a whole stream on just the movie fairly soon. Shit test. Yeah, like that's basically what the way he described it was. Yeah, it was basically the powers the powers that the same power. Because think about it, if you think that the election was stolen, and I do. I mean, look, I also thought it was funny that he lost. Initially, I was like, and then, but once the evidence came in, look, if you can't, you really can't see all the evidence and still, unless you can't grasp it. But you can't be exposed the evidence and think that it wasn't stolen. It was stolen. And you have to think to yourself also, because of the complexity of some of it, and look, there's a lot of bullshit too. Like the whole Frankfurt server getting raided, all that, that's all bullshit, okay? So there's a lot of bullshit mixed in with like the real shit. And that's the problem. The same thing with like Pizzagate, stuff like that, right? Like, all these people don't believe it because there's a bunch of bullshit that muddies the waters. But once you look at it and you realize, yeah, it happened, and yeah, it seems like it was fairly coordinated on a fairly massive scale. The same people that would have coordinated that would have made that happen, are likely at least tied to the same people that were able to coordinate and make happen all the riots. I think most people would agree with that, right? Like that's going to be coming from the same source or the same team, right? And so why wouldn't it be a shit test? Why wouldn't it be let's see how Trump responds to let's see if he's the kind of president that's going to come at us with an iron fist, or if he's just going to tweet about it. And he just tweeted about it. So it's kind of like, oh, all right, well, paper tiger, huh? So that's kind of just how I view it. Or at least I feel like that's a pretty valid way of looking at it. I think that's a very good possibility. I mean, we'll never know, right? All we can do is make guesses, and I think that's a pretty good guess. Devin, do you think there'll be more or less of the riots with Biden in office? I don't know. Look, I'm still not even saying that Biden's 100% going to be in office. I don't know. I think that's most likely. So it depends. It really depends. I think we'll input this way too. I think that once Biden is in office, he's not going to stay in office. You know what I mean? And I don't mean that like Trump's going to whatever. I mean like Kamala Harris will be president, right? Now she's pretty far left. So will she be someone that the hidden hand will want? And therefore there won't be any of these riots? Will it flip? Will there suddenly be Q people, popping off, driving RVs places and stuff like that? I don't know. I know it would be different because if the right decides to get violent, it's not the same. Why did my background video stop? Load a different one in here. Oh, this is a good movie. I like this one. Maybe you guys can guess this one. Well, it's gonna say what it is. That's no fair. But anyway, it's still a good one. But yeah, I mean, it'll be totally different if the right decides to get violent. It's not going to be mobs of just, you know, it's not going to be like flash mobs. It's certainly going to be racially different, right? And they're not going to just go around burning businesses down and shit like that. I think it's going to be a lot more targeted. And it's going to be a lot more, well, potentially more lethal. I don't know, though. I also think that the right's pretty pacified, so I don't even know, you know, that what it would be. It's real. I don't have a magic. I wish I had a crystal ball. I'm not Q. I wish I could give you. Me myself. One of the reasons why I was thinking about the topic I talked about today, right, where you get in this holding pattern because you have all these little things that you're waiting for to happen. I kind of saw myself doing this with the Trump election, right? Where I was like, well, I can't decide if I'm going to do that or not until I know if, you know, who the president's going to be, or like, you know, and I started, you know, thinking like that back in November when we were first faced with the very real possibility that Trump wasn't going to concede, and there was all this evidence coming out. And I was like, oh, well, you know, prepping wise and just some stuff in my personal life, right? Like, I didn't know how I was going to act or react because I didn't know what the situation was going to be like. But the bottom line is, it doesn't matter. Like, you'll never really know. Like I said, they're going to keep cock teasing it. And here it is, you know, over 2 months later, and we still don't know. You know, we still don't know. And so if I just sit there and use that as an excuse to not make some bigger decisions in my life, because, well, I don't know. Like, I don't know if we're going to be in the middle of a civil war or whatever. Look, we're not. You're never going to know. No one's ever going to know. So just pull the trigger on these things that you think will be affected if, you know, suddenly there's a civil war. I mean, obviously, they will be. Try to mitigate the damage that would happen if there was, as much as possible, because I feel like that's probably on the way. But at the same time, look, it could be 5 days, 5 years, never. I don't think never is an option, really, the realistic option. But people have been thinking that Civil War was right around the corners. I mean, look at Bill Cooper. Bill Cooper in the 80s saw it coming. And it's significantly worse. Like, the trajectory, it's not like he was wrong. You know, it's significantly worse now than it was in the 80s, but that was fucking 40 years ago. You know, Bill Cooper was I'm sure, convinced that it was right around the corner, and you know, 40 years later, it hasn't happened yet. It's kind of like these well, I mean, I don't want to say it's like the end of the world cults who keep being wrong, because I guess in a way you could say that, because the world maybe might end, but no, I think that it's pretty much a guarantee that the United States will not exist in its current form forever, right? And in fact, its current form is relatively new compared to other countries. And I don't just mean since 1776. I'm talking like, you know, the area that America took up has changed significantly. You know, like Hawaii wasn't even a state until like the 1950s. I think New Mexico, same thing. Like, it's a fairly recent state. You know, there were a bunch of this, and even the territory before, you know, not to mention, statehood's different, but the territory itself, like California, Utah, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico. That was all part of Mexico. Texas was like basically its own country for a while. You know, so the idea that the United, like, we're post-history now and everything's going to just freeze in time and America's going to be this, it's insane. It's an insane thought. And, but at the same time, it's impossible to predict when. Or at least with the information that we have access to. It's impossible to predict when. So if you just sit there paralyzed and not wanting to do certain things in your life because you're worried about, like, well, what if I do that and then Civil War breaks out? You're never going to get anything done. Because, I'm sure Bill Cooper thought the exact same way 40 years ago. And in fact, you can keep going further back and further back. There's always people that see it coming. It's more remarkable the further back you get because things were still relatively good and they saw it coming, right? And I think it just always takes longer than you think. And part of that's ego. You know, people like to think that the universe is on the same timeline that they are. You know, something I said on Twitter recently was, I don't remember the exact wording, but basically when people say, don't worry guys, in the end, good wins, or in the end, God wins, that they're being narcissists. Because in the end doesn't mean the end of your life or even like the end of the day or the week, or the end could be in 1,000 fucking years. You know what I mean? Like the timeline, like that statement might be true. Like in the end, good wins, or in the end, God wins. But in the end, it doesn't mean like while you're still alive, like but if you're a narcissist though, and you literally think the universe revolves around you, then yeah, it means before you die. Because this is all constructed. All of existence is constructed for your benefit, right? So of course, it's all going to get resolved in your lifetime. You're going to get to see good win because life is like a movie, right? It's not going to just end with to be continued. No, it's going to have like a nice little resolution in the third act, and everyone's going to be happy at the end. No, that's not the way that the universe works. So everything's really unpredictable. It's impossible to know what's going to happen, and especially right now, given the state that we're in right now. Look, I'll tell you one thing. I'll be a lot more comfortable after, say, the 20th, regardless of what happens, just because I would think that by then we'll at least have an easier way of determining what's going to happen in the future. It is unnerving. It's unnerving. It's unnerving not knowing certain things about, like, certain big things. But you can't let it paralyze you. You can't let it freeze you and prevent you from making the big decisions in your life. You just got to rip the Band-Aid off, pull the trigger, push the button, whatever, euphemism you want to use, but you just got to get on with it. And maybe nothing happens. Maybe something happens, whatever. You can change your course of action at that point. I think it happens in my son's life. Yeah, well, look, there's something to think about is it's really, well, like I said, it's impossible to really determine because in one way you could say, well, America's huge. It's got a lot of momentum behind it. And a lot of the same issues it has with debt and all this other stuff, it plagues the entire West. So it's not like they're unique with this problem. And in many ways, our military makes that problem not as much of a problem because who's going to step up to us, right? And the public, I think, is pretty easy to tell is fairly docile. in many countries in the West, they're already disarmed. In the United States, where they're not disarmed, there really, at least so far, hasn't been any real uprising or anything like that, right? So you could say, like, look, they can run on fumes for a long time, and a long time meaning like maybe another 50 years, who knows, right? Now, at the same time, you could say, well, that's true, but for starters, if Biden gets installed, for the first time in maybe ever in the United States, you'll have about half the country thinking that the federal government's illegitimate. And that's pretty significant. That's honestly, and that's a big part of why I want it to be the 20th already, because that's like a big deal, right? Like, that's a big deal. That is a shift. How will people respond to that? I don't know. I mean, people could respond to that by just, throwing their hands up in the air and saying, oh, well, I guess that's, you know what I mean? Like, people are so docile right now, it's almost impossible to tell what'll happen. I rarely see anything that's encouraging in terms of people sticking up and risking their comfort for the greater good, or however you want to say it. Canned chicken and crab has like a 4-year shelf life. Yeah, well, I would say that absolutely stock up on food and stuff like that. I mean, you should be doing that anyway. Even in times of peace or whatever, because there could be a natural disaster. Lots of things could happen, especially if you're out like at a homestead and you can't rely on, you won't be a top priority if something bad happens. Now, and conversely, especially if you're in the city, because you'll have a lot of other hungry hippos hanging out around you. So it's always a good idea. Always a good idea to have lots of food storage. And there's ways you can do it really cheap. Peanut butter and cans of tuna. And if you have a freezer, you can do it even cheaper. You can buy just like stacks and stacks of tortillas. Stick them in the freezer. They'll last forever. If the power goes out, once they thaw out, they'll still last for quite a while. Rice, super cheap, high calorie. And look, in an emergency situation where you're just trying to stay alive, you don't have to worry about the fact that you don't have a rice cooker that works. Like you could just eat. It wouldn't be fun. But you could just eat like a handful of crunchy, dried ass rice, and that'll keep you going. Beans, you can get big bags of dehydrated beans. I mean, if stored properly, this stuff will last a long ass time, and it's cheap. You don't have to get like these expensive freeze dried meals to survive on. It might not be a bad idea to grab some of those just to mix things up, I guess. But ramen will keep you alive. Ramen costs pretty much nothing. That'll get you all your carbs. Start home brewing. I did 6 months ago. Home brewing's fun. And especially because you get unfiltered beer. And an unfiltered beer, that sediment at the bottom actually has like a lot of good stuff in it. Got vitamin B12. Lots of good. In fact, when you drink like a Coors Light or the filtered beer, pretty much every beer in America is filtered. It's like the difference between refined sugar, or not even that. It's like corn syrup versus, I don't know, not even like, it's like corn syrup versus biting into an apple. Pot of water is a rice cooker. Yeah, it is and it isn't. Plus, if you're in a water situation where water is scarce, boiling water is not ideal because you will lose some of that to the, to boiling it. The current pop of the U.S. is about 60% white. It's probably less than that since the consensus lumps in Arabs and Jews as white. Well, and white Hispanics. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think we're below 50%. I do. I think that certainly below 60%, but even very possibly below 50%. And I know that the white replacement birth rate is below, or the white birth rate is below replacement in, last time I checked, it was like 28 states. And the people immigrating, I'm sure you guys have all seen those charts. It's not white people coming here. Water can be found on the top of toilets and water heaters. Yeah, I mean, there's water sources. In the desert, I just have to store a fuck ton of it. I have a well, and I don't have the solar stuff for it yet, unfortunately. So, like, if the grid went down, I'd be fucked a little bit. But I've got lots, stored up. If that happened, I would have enough to get out of here, and get to a water source. Chinese are almost 9% of USA population, almost the same as blacks now. Is that Chinese or Asian? Because if Chinese alone is 9%, that's pretty fucking horrendous. Chinese are AI. No, they're not AI. Snack, although they might control AI soon. Snack, meaty, nutrition, full, delicious, cheap. Oh, cat food? Food cat or cat food? You could probably stay alive on fucking cat food. I don't know. Maybe that would be a survival food, like a last. I wonder if you could do that. I mean, maybe if you just got like bags and bags and bags of like that the dry dog food or something, and just because I would assume that stuff lasts forever, right? And it's got to have like everything in it. If it keeps a dog alive, wouldn't it keep you alive? I don't know. I'm sure it doesn't taste great, but maybe it would. Maybe it'd keep you going and it'd be cheap. Probably have an amazing shelf life, right? Ham radio is way to talk to boomers, but beware, the FCC is no joke. It's literally feds listening. Yeah, it is, but like you got to remember, with propagation being weird, and just like I don't think they have the staff for it. I mean, the FCC doesn't they don't even really respond to complaints, or at least not like they used to. I mean, ham radio is very low priority for really all government agencies. It's such a niche thing that there's not really a lot of policing, and there's not a lot of just interaction really with the federal government when it comes to ham radio. I'll take a drink of water from my 2-quart canteen. I love these canteens. I'm not a big fan of the the 2 and 3 liter hydration bladders that everyone started liking a few years ago, and now every backpack has one built into it. I don't know why. I just don't like the fucking tube thing. Makes me feel like fucking Terry Schiavo or something. Yeah, here's the other thing. That's another thing. In fact, that ties in what we talked about today. There's always an excuse to not do something. You know, there's always an excuse to be, oh, I'm afraid of ham radio because, like, I think that the FCC... And look, yeah, you basically give all your information to the FCC when you get a license. And when you broadcast or whatever, yeah, you're giving out your call sign, and it ties to who you are, right? People, you are going to be... I mean, the government's going to know who you are, right? But they already know who you are. You know? They can just as easily scrape all the data that they already have on everybody, look at your purchases and be like, oh, well, like, let's say you don't get your license. All right. But they know you bought a ham radio. I mean, they're going to know that. And in fact, let's say, and I don't think this is the case, but let's say the NSA is like super paranoid about ham radio, and they've got like listening antennas all over the country, which I'm sure there's like, on some level, this is true, right? But it's not, I doubt it's as extensive as maybe some people think it is. I'm sure on some level this is true. But let's say it's totally like full coverage, the United States, and they can triangulate every single broadcast, and they do. Well, then they do. No, you're fucked either way, you know? So you can let that stop you from getting into ham radio. And look, there's a time investment in it. It might not be your top priority. I would say it should be lower on the list than food and and weapons and stuff like that. That's going to be way more important. But I think it would be. I think it's an opportunity. I think that we have an opportunity to really immigrate in mass numbers, in mass quantities into that space, and kind of take it over. Because the people that are currently occupying the airwaves they're dying out. I mean, if you listen right now, like that first thing I had that we were listening to while you guys were waiting for me to come on, was boomers talking on the radio. And that's the majority of what it is. And they're dying off. Like some of these guys are like 89, like in their 90s. And they're not being replaced because cell phones and the internet happen, right? And this was cell phones / the internet for decades. So I think we have a real opportunity, and it's a use it or lose it kind of thing too. Like if all the boomers die off and no one's using ham radio, the FCC will confiscate those bands and give them to, they'll lease them to Google or something. Like that's what they do now. Like when they switched broadcast television from the UHF band that they were using to the new digital stuff, they sold off that UHF band to I think it was to Google actually. So you got to use it, or they'll sell it off to something. Okay, so I'm gonna take a look at chat one last time, and then I'm gonna wrap things up and hit the sack. Do you need a bigger setup to reach people further away? All I have is, so the Baofangs you got to think of them as just local radios. You need an HF radio. I have a whole video on ham radio on my channel on YouTube. And it's probably on BitChute also. You just need, basically you need, if you really want to get out there, you need like about 100 watts minimum. You can do more than that. 100 watts is fine though. 100 watts will get you out pretty much. And that's what most standard radios will get you, will give you 100 watts. If you have the money, you can spend as much as you want, but like the average go-to that everyone uses, all my radios are like older than me. I don't have a radio like this, but if you've got the money and you just want something that's going to work, you can get an ICOM 7300, and that seems to be what everyone has and everyone likes. And those are about $1,000. So if you got $1,000, my first radio cost like $40, and then I had to spend probably another $60 or so to get it working. But my first radio was a FT101, which is like an old tube radio. But it's still that's what I use now. The radio that I use right now is that radio, and it's solid, works great. But yeah, so you can get it, you can do it cheap, but you just gotta have the ability and also the patience to fix up an old radio. But if you're not interested in that, you just want to get something for your bunker or whatever, you just need to get, plop down. You can get a used one, probably about $500. I don't know. I'm talking about for modern stuff. Like if you're willing to get something old, like I was saying, like you can get them for like $40-$50 if you wait around long enough and watch out for it. Or even if you can spend $200 for one that probably already works. But again, you probably have to wait around because sometimes these get overpriced. And but if you can find one that's confirmed working and you kind of know what you're doing with electronics, you don't have to spend that much. And then you can make an antenna. Again, you can also buy one. It all depends on how much time you want to put into it. So, but I have a whole video on ham radio on the YouTube channel that you can check out. Thoughts on Japan and their ethno state? Well, they did good so far, but I don't think that it's going to continue that way. They're already talking about diversity. Someone said they're running a Xiegu G90, which is about 35 watts. Yeah, that's the Chinese company. You could get one of those. I've heard people like them, and they're significantly cheaper than the Japanese made ones. I don't want something I can't fix. If it, and an SDR stands for software defined radio. It's like a computer, right? And it's like your video card. If it's shorted out, maybe you could fix it, but probably not. But like an old tube radio, if a capacitor explodes, first of all, you already know like it's lasted 40 fucking years, and so if you just fix all the perishable components like capacitors in tubes, make sure you have spare tubes. You're good to go for a long time. And you don't even have to get one that's as old as a tube radio necessarily. There are some vintage solid state transceivers that you can get cheap, and they're also user serviceable. But sometimes you need like weird transistor components that, unless you have extras laying around, I don't know. It's probably just my weird paranoia where I feel like it's like that Twilight Zone episode of the original Twilight Zone, where this guy he hates everybody. He hates everybody, and he wants everyone to die or whatever, and he just wants everyone to leave him alone so he can just read his books because he likes to read books. And then somehow, like I haven't seen this episode in over 10 years, but like somehow a nuclear blast comes and it kills everybody on Earth but him. And he walks out and he's like, "Oh, this is amazing. This is what I wanted. Oh, thank God. Everyone's gone." And then he goes to the library and he's like, "Oh, I can read all these books." And then while he's all excited, his glasses fall off, or I don't remember exactly what happens, but basically he breaks his glasses. And so now he's the only one alive. And he can't see, so he can't read his books, and like now he's just trapped in hell until he dies. And so it's a little over dramatic, but like there's like a version of that in my head where I feel like, okay, I'm going to have this radio and then something's going to happen and it's going to break and then I'm just fucked and I'll be like, so I want a radio that I can easily service no matter what, even if like the whole grid goes down, I'm on 100% solar, and even if there was an EMP somehow that hit, I could still use it. And that's because with the old radios, if you don't have transistors and you properly protect them, which might even just mean you put it under a table because the cases are built like tanks. You're good to go still. Anyway. Why do you think the census form doesn't have a separate category for Arabs, Indians, Turks? Is it on purpose? I don't know. I think that the last thing they want white people to think about is they're getting outnumbered. So I think it's entirely possible. Can no one defend the West without being attacked by Western males? Is this just Vance? I guess Stack and Taylor manage it, among others. What do you mean? You mean like how there's a lot of infighting on the right? Yeah, there's a lot of infighting on the right, and I think part of that is there's a power vacuum right now. Like, think about in 2016, before Trump had disappointed a lot of the people on the right, there was unity. There was unity. There was unity between people right now today that hate each other. And that's because everyone had Trump as a rallying point. And different people had different expectations or whatever, but there was this unifying guy. And what happened was, as he failed more and more, and increasingly to larger groups of people to uphold what they thought he was going to do, more people became disenchanted. They untethered themselves from Trump, and they now, and it's been in large enough numbers at this point where there's a lot of people on the right who don't see Trump as a leader and really don't really have a leader. And so that's a power vacuum. And the people that want power are all fighting for that leadership position. And so often I think you'll find the people doing the most infighting, if you will, are the people that they want power. And look, that's not even necessarily a bad thing. I mean, someone's got to eventually rise to the top or whatever, but that's what it is. And the reason I don't fight with really anybody, it's very infrequent, because unless I feel like that person is like really bad for us. I'm pretty much chill with most people that basically want the same things that I want. It's because I don't want power. I don't want to be in charge of anything really. Like, I just don't. That's not my aim. I feel like we're all kind of allies. We're all in this together. So I don't want to splinter us up. There's strength in numbers, that sort of thing. So unless I think that you're, absolutely toxic, I don't have a problem with you. Like, I don't care. It's like kind of what I was saying with like the different religions. Like, we can talk about like what flavor of ice cream Jesus liked more later. Like, that stuff doesn't matter to me. Okay. Like right now people are trying to kill us. So if you don't want to kill us, you're on my team. And so the people that fight over these little tiny differences, and sometimes they're not tiny differences, I get it. But a lot of that's just a power vacuum people are trying to grab a hold of. The last thing they want is a united right. Well, I mean, what did they do to that rally that was called Unite the Right? How did that work out? That's an understatement. They absolutely do not want unity on the right. Okay. I'm going to wrap things up here. I will answer this last one. Do you think Trump will run again in 24. I don't think he would. I actually don't know that he could really win a primary in 24. I don't know that he would run in 24. That's a tough one. I don't think that I don't think he wouldn't win in the general. He wouldn't. Not at that point. Because here's something you got to think about, and a lot of people are going to think about this. If Trump hands over, like if he has to run in 2024, it's because he didn't do what he had to do in 2020. If Trump is running in 2024, it's because Trump didn't have what it took to be president in 2020. It means he had no business even being president in 2020. If he's created a situation where he didn't have the balls to do what it took to not have to run in 2024, he had no business being president. And people are going to get that. Maybe not at first. There's going to be like emotional people and like the Q-tards, whatever, right? But by and large, a lot of people that are right now hoping that he crosses the Rubicon or whatever, right? That aren't necessarily like Q psychos. Because there's a lot of people that aren't Q psychos that think that that's what he's going to do. I think it's possible that he does it. I don't think he's going to do it, but I think it's possible. I don't think you're crazy if you think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen, but I don't think you're crazy. If he doesn't, as I suspect he won't, all those people, again, with some exceptions, once the grieving process has run its course, they're going to realize, look, he was a fucking failure. When the going got tough, he didn't prove himself worthy of the office. And they might not articulate it quite like that, but I mean, at that point, the magic's gone. How can you respect a man that it's like letting someone come in your house and fuck your wife right in front of you because of some technicality? If you're not willing to fight the guy, even if it might put you in jail, what kind of fucking husband are you? What kind of father are you? You're certainly not a patriarch worthy of this country. And I think people will get that. I think people will, even if they can't articulate it, they're going to have a gut. It's hard. It'll be hard to respect a man like that. So, all right, guys. Well, with that, I'm gonna hit the hay. Make sure you get a ILBE pack if you're gonna get an army or military surplus rucksack. ILBE is the way to go. Unless you're rocking a plate carrier, then get a Philby or a MOLLE II. And hope you guys have a good 24 hours, because in 24 hours it'll be the early morning of the 6th. So this might be your last 24 hours of normalcy before shit gets real. What are we talking about? Shit's already gotten real, but it might get real starting the 6th, or nothing will happen. Either way, there will be consequences that reverberate throughout the world and make huge changes to our way of life eventually. And with that, for Black Pilled, I am, of course, the one, the only, Devin Stack.
Dun, dun, dun.